So I'm not sure how to treat this channel or what videos to make all the time, but I do know that I love digging through the bowels of the internet to find all the nitty-gritty new news on Valiant Vivid Vidya. This episode covers video game titles coming out in 2019 or later that are for more high-end, beastly computers. If you don't have one of those, all of these titles should be coming out on consoles as well. So if you're one of the bold and the brave that think that you have a machine that can take on huge budget titles with HD graphics, then this episode is for you. Welcome to the Lemon Fresh Experience.
Bring it back.
Resident Evil 2. Wait, finally? A remake of Resident Evil 2? Sorry, I don't mean to fanboy in my own videos, but I'm only trying to pick video games I personally find interesting anyway, and a Resident Evil 2 remake is in like my top 3 titles I've wanted developed. I'm familiar with Resident Evil as a whole, but Resident Evil 2 and 4 games I played inside and out, and I cherished my time with those games. Instead of fixed camera angles and tank controls, Resident Evil 2 is now taking cue from their Revelation series. The camera is a third-person, over-the-shoulder view, and instead of a lock-on aiming, you use a reticle, which changes depending on the weapon you're using. The story has the same concept from the original, but Capcom boasts that it has designed everything from the ground up. From the gameplay, to the story, to the characters themselves, you can still play as Claire or Leon, and the weapons shown so far seem true to the original, with knives, handguns, shotguns, grenades, and grenade launchers all shown in released gameplay. Honestly, I think that the graphics look amazing. Leon might be a little too baby-faced, but at its core it looks dark, gritty, and downright scary. However, we have to talk about something. When you remake a game, a lot of times, one of two things are expected of you. You either make aspects of that game better, or make it as close to the original as possible. Well, this remake says it's not a remake, it's so much more. And there's something that comes to mind when I hear those words in released gameplay.
I never asked for this.
In truth, I've wanted an HD remake of the same game. Maybe tweak a few things or give gameplay options if you must. But I've seen a lot come from the clunky and archaic Resident Evil 1 title, and I would have liked some of those resources to treat the second game the same. Instead, they're revamping this game so hard, I can't help but ask, why? What's the point? When you're rewriting, recasting, reprogramming everything, why not just make a new, original title? Oh yes, Resident Evil 2 as a title guarantees more sales. Does this mean that the game is bad? No, but it's certainly not standing on its own merit anymore. It's not the first time I've complained about a video game slapping a famous title on something new just so consumers will buy it. In contrast to this situation, there's a track record of good games being inspired by past titles, and it leads to evolutionary gameplay and stories. Sometimes developers leave big projects to make something closer to what they had in mind, rather than what's going to sell better. This is all just my opinion, and of course you might not think the same thing, but you don't have to lie to kick it with the Lemon Fresh Experience. I know for certain that I'll have friends that buy this game, good or not, and I'll be doubly honest, it looks good. Like, dang, do I want to play this. I just really hope that you, as a consumer, keep your eyes open before buying this title when it comes out on January 25th, 2019. Farcry New Dawn. So if you haven't played or beaten Far Cry 5, and it's really important to you, this title is like one big spoiler to one of the possible endings. So I'll put when I cover each game in the description below, so pause this video, figure out when the next game starts and skip ahead if that concerns you. Farcry New Dawn is a sequel/spin-off to Far Cry 5, taking place post-nuclear apocalypse in the same county as Far Cry 5, but after the nuclear winter. Don't expect a Mad Max or even Fallout-esque game. The world is filled with greenery and color. Fauna, flora, and animals have bloomed. The people, though, still have a thrown-together look you'd get from scavenging the earth for leftover materials in a race for survival. Far Cry has always had some light inventory management in their games, usually trying to just give you what you want once you've earned it. So I wonder how much scavenging/crafting they'll be putting into this new title. Will you get to craft new weapons like a Dead Rising game? Or will you just find pre-made weapons that you unlock as the story progresses? Either way, they're definitely riding the post-apocalypse train that has been hot with titles like Fallout 4 and Horizon Zero Dawn. I'm just saying I love those games, so I might actually get this title myself. The bad guys are two badass-looking twin ladies, Mickey and Joe. Leading the Highwaymen, not much is known about them yet, besides the fact that they're trying to take the whole county for themselves, and the main character is trying to defend the locals and stop the bad guys. So long story short, they're giving us the high-caliber bad guys that lead to gunfighting and explosions that I've come to love from the Far Cry series. This take on post-apocalypse reminds me of the character Ian Malcolm in the Jurassic Park novel, written by Michael Crichton. He said, "The planet has survived everything in its time. It will certainly survive us." I took this to mean that the human race was nowhere near powerful enough to end life. Maybe life as we know it, maybe it would look completely different. But to think we could end life on the planet was a laughable delusion of grandeur. So following the logic that we can't end life, it actually flourishes after our best efforts to end it. Isn't that a nice wholesome point for the kids? We'll be seeing what Ubisoft has to offer on February 15th, 2019. Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord. Oh yes, I've spent many an hour in Mount and Blade and Mount and Blade Warband. You could play those games on lower NPCs, but to get a decent number of soldiers on the battlefield, you needed a pretty beastly computer, and there were mods that took the battlefield unit count even higher than vanilla. Tailworlds is currently developing a quote-unquote sequel to those titles, and they've seemed to streamline the experience a bit better. There's no release date for the game yet, but it's still in an early development phase, and I'd rather they iron things out rather than rush themselves to give us an unfinished product. Which is great. A lot of YouTubers and fans alike have said the same thing. The gameplay shows a lot smoother of an experience than previous titles. People unfamiliar might not know about how rigid and mechanical melee combat was in the first game, but Bannerlord's combat makes you really feel like your character is connecting or blocking with his weapons. This might sound like a nitpick, but I really think that this helps with immersion. Tailworlds is also updating the grand scale of combat. A level designer/video production artist says that one of his favorite things about Bannerlord is that they're fitting a lot more units on the field of battle. Since we know that they're programming their game with this intention, I'd like to think that they're keeping optimization in mind, at least to the point that a higher-end computer could run big battles filled with a lot of skirmishes, tactics, and combat. It really looks like they're updating so many things about combat in this game, and it really looks refreshing to a veteran player. Let's just hope they put as much thought into their quests and take away or revamp things like herding cattle or tracking looters. So there's one last thing that I want to say, and that's a big thank you to both my subscribers and my followers on Twitter. I've received a lot of support from everybody, and it really has been a great experience. It's definitely what kept me coming back to the drawing board after my hiatus. So I'm going to keep updating my channel, playing with different video ideas, and learning new and improved ways to provide you with the Lemon Fresh experience. I hope I'll see you in the next episode.